All right, meteorologist Dave Williams, meteorologist Sonya Stevens, and we're going to talk Irma with you. And that's what everybody's asking about.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to talk about. So we really saw this. It's become more real, I guess.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, even yesterday, when I was working, you know, we still weren't in that cone.
Right.
But now that we're in the cone, it's you know, becoming more real. And
the fact that the models just keep spitting out a very similar solution day after day after day.
And getting more consistent with each other.
Yep.
But, you know, like we said, we've been saying all day, you know, we like to look at trends as opposed to, you know, a lot of people out there. I love social media, but with situations like this, it's not always a good thing.
No.
And so, you know, people just, you know, when the computers spit out a model run, you know, people run with it.
Exactly.
And we as meteorologists, you know, we go to school and we study this, and we know that just one model run.
Yeah, that's not going to make a forecast.
Absolutely.
So we've been watching the trends, and what we want to do is we've got a lot of this information to go through right here. Hopefully you find it helpful, and we are going to feel the impacts of Irma here in the low country. Just not sure how great they'll be at this point.
Right. Yeah, it just depends on a lot of things, which is why we're going to be very busy in the coming days.
Yep. And one of the things Sonya talked about is those model trends. So we're watching those model trends, the jogs in the forecast, and then the intensity and the interaction of this storm with land. And I think that's really, there's two keys. It's when's it going to make that turn?
Yep.
Up toward Florida.
Yep, yep.
And how much interaction is it going to have with land, because that could hopefully tear the storm apart.
Right, if it has some interaction with Cuba, possibly before it makes the turn, or, you know, how much will it interact with Florida?
Yeah, definitely. And we did have a question, how wide is this storm? And at this point, it's a pretty small, compact storm as far as hurricanes go. The hurricane force winds, last I checked, were only out about 50 miles from the center of the storm. But over time, if it does weaken, that's going to become larger. And
right. And we're still looking at tropical storm force winds 185. I just checked that.
Yeah.
So so very very concise as far as the hurricane force winds, but the tropical storm force winds extending further out.
And that's going to bring those impacts to the southeast for sure. They're going to be here.
And like we said, we're going to get impacts. The question is what kind of impacts and to what degree we're going to get the impacts.
Yep. So I believe this is the 8 o'clock update.
Yep. That information is correct.
185 mile an hour winds. The pressure on it's at 914 millibars, and that's been holding steady, and that's a disturbing number as a meteorologist.
Yes, yeah. And you can see that eye passing just north of San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Yep, and it's not going to make landfall in Puerto Rico.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is good for the folks in Puerto Rico.
But they're still, I mean, look at how large the storm is.
Right,
so.
But it looks like they're outside of the real intense hurricane force winds, but certainly tropical storm force winds there.
Right. Right.
And it looks like also it's going to stay off to the north of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, which is good for the folks down there. But the more interaction this has with land before it gets to us, the better.
Right, because there's just otherwise there's nothing to weaken it. There's still very limited wind shear. We're looking at very warm water.
Yep.
How warm is the water? We're looking at
86 to 90.
Yeah.
On average.
So we're talking hot water.
Yeah. And
there's still plenty of moisture. So just all the ingredients are there. So the only thing that could weaken it would be some land.
Oh, there we go. That's Puerto Rico right now. Live Earth cam out there, and that doesn't look too bad.
No, I mean,
the trees aren't bent over.
It can always be worse, right?
Well,
unfortunately.
And like we said, they're getting the tropical storm force winds, not necessarily the hurricane force winds right there around San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Right.
So here's another view of the storm. This is the.
Is this a GOES 16?
I think it is the GOES 16.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Showing the storm and how close it is to Puerto Rico, but just another view. It's the clouds from outer space. This one isn't enhanced like the satellite image you just saw.
Somebody asked how the storms behind it. There's Jose, which is now a hurricane. That's not going to impact.
No.
I mean, nothing is going to impact Irma. Just a monster of a storm. So Jose is the forecast models still have it moving north.
Yep.
So not going to be a threat to land.
Well, and honestly, if we haven't paid much attention to these storms, it's because you don't really have to know much about
right.
these
And same
storms.
thing with Katia. So yesterday we had TD13,
Yeah.
now it's Katia, going to make landfall in eastern Mexico by probably early Saturday. So again, not a threat to us.
Right, and some folks are concerned about the people along the Gulf Coast. This isn't even going to make it up to the areas affected by Harvey. It's much farther to the south. And,
which is good. They've had enough.
Yeah. And a lot of folks are worried about this storm being similar to Harvey. It's nothing like Harvey because it'll come through so quick.
I think because it's recent.
Yes,
that's the only thing. And the other thing is people are comparing it to Hugo. And again, the track is nothing like Hugo. But I think for some people, they haven't been through a major hurricane. And so you start to make comparisons and things that, as meteorologists, we don't see comparable.
Right.
But it's the only thing they have to compare it to.
And we were talking about the forecast models being in good agreement, and here they are. I hope it stays off to the south, closer to Cuba, maybe tears it up a little bit. And
because there's some mountains in Cuba.
Yes, and bad for the folks in Cuba. We don't want to wish this storm on anyone, but somebody's going to get it. And this right-hand turn, I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around how quickly it's going to make that right-hand turn.
Well, and people wondering, why, and I don't know if you have this graphic further in there about what's steering it, but it's that ridge, so again, it all depends on how the western edge of this ridge kind of breaks down.
Right.
So that's why we're not exactly sure. Then we've got that other high that's going to help to steer it. So between the two features, it's kind of a waiting game.
Right.
Trying to see.
The model trend easing to the east.
Yeah, and that was the case since yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday afternoon when I came in, the tracks were further west, and then they kind of started. So, it was, again, it's been a trend.
But the problem's with that high that's off to the north, and we do have the graphic in here that's going to show the steering currents.
So we can show that.
So, and it'll show why it's
But
headed.
yeah, I mean, one thing we're confident about, it's taking that turn to the north.
Yeah.
When it does.
And
and like you said, you've been saying earlier,
yeah.
we all like these.
Yeah.
These models, but
seems fairly unlikely, but
it does.
But
because
it's a possibility.
That we're seeing those models come in better agreement, and when they're in better agreement, unfortunately, we're more confident.
Right. And somebody asked about the flooding in downtown Charleston or in the Charleston area. It's just way too early to pin that down because
will we be at high tide?
Right.
It's just way too early.
Right. Will it be high tide? Fortunately, at that time, we're coming off the lunar high tides. Right now, we're actually in the lunar high tide.
Right.
So in about a week from now, or 5 days, 6 days, it'll be much lower than what it is now.
So that's one good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, still way too early to speculate. I mean, if we don't even know exact track, how are we going to know the flooding
and
in
the
downtown?
intensity? I mean, if this storm is, I don't know, a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, it's not going to be good.
Not going to have the surge that it would with a
right. Category 3, Category 4. I don't think we're going to be looking at a Category 5. I really don't. I think there's going to be enough interaction with land, but we'll just have to monitor that.
Yeah.
So,
and it's going to be cooler waters in comparison too.
Yeah, and we've got to look at that too. I've got that forecast graphic in here too.
Some upwelling going on.
Yep.
You can talk about that.
Yep. And I don't think we'll have to worry about that because it is moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
And there it is, our Category 5 hurricane.
Just north of San Juan.
Yep. And it's going to continue off to the west, northwest. If it's over the Bahamas, that's just not enough land.
Not enough land, no.
Not enough land to make a difference. It would need to be over the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and those folks down there really don't need this storm.
Right.
They got hard hit by Matthew last year.
Right.
There were over 1,000 deaths.
This track is a kind of best case scenario. That's going to pass north.
Yep. And keep in mind, it's not going to be exactly in the center of this cone.
Right. It could be here.
Right.
Could be here.
Right.
So this is best case scenario for them. The northern edge of that track.
And notice it weakens. So the forecast is for it to weaken back to 150 mile an hour, 55 mile an hour sustained winds, but very close to Miami. This will be later in the day on Saturday.
Right. So here we are. This is, I guess, Saturday at 2 p.m.
Yes. So late Saturday, early Sunday.
And again, and we've been talking about this. Look at the cone. It just continues to gradually widen.
Yep.
So we get day 4, day 5 out. We're talking, track air of 225 miles
from where I am to where you are.
Right.
I believe we had a question. What was that question?
I didn't hear anything.
The highest waves with this storm. That's also something we can't.
It depends on the category and and the approach it takes. And the approach it takes.
Earlier this week, there was a false report out on Facebook that said there were going to be these 50-foot waves just crashing on the shore. And
beware of
fake forecasts.
Fake forecasts.
This is the real deal right here, and this is why we're trying to dispel some rumors like that. A lot of times we don't see the big, huge waves from a hurricane because it's a gradual slope here of our beaches out toward the Gulf Stream. I wouldn't be so concerned about waves. It's actually the surge that we need to be concerned with.
Right.
So, and that's the actual raising of the entire ocean and pushing it inland.
And you were talking about this earlier. Somebody was asking about I hate to compare to another storm, but compared to Hugo, but because Hugo came straight on, more of a surge, whereas northward, again, that water's not pushed inland as much. It's going to be pushed more northward and inland.
And some of that could spill up farther, up toward
the
Myrtle
north.
Beach, up toward Wilmington.
You know, possibly the Outer Banks, depending on the track.
Right. So up the coast is better than straight into the coast, and we're certainly not going to see that straight into the coast. That is just not going to happen. So it's either going to come up or it's going to move through land. So we won't have to worry about it coming straight in off the Atlantic Ocean.
Right, yeah, it's definitely going to come from the south. Brian, so you said the roll landfall. Repeat that question again. Right. So what landfall is going to do for the storm? You know, it's going to weaken it. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, but we're still going to see. But it depends on how strong it is when it makes landfall. What kind of impacts we see therefore. You know,
yeah, and that's why we can't get into the specifics of a landfall at this point.
And that's one thing hurricane models and our forecast models aren't good at with judging intensity as we get further out in time. You know, we've got a pretty good idea because of all the ingredients being there that it's going to stay a major hurricane through the end of the week, heading into the first part of the weekend. But from there, you know, we just don't know.
And these are two historic tracks. We were talking about the historic tracks. This one here is from Hurricane David. That was back in 1979, and Hurricane Matthew, which was just last year. And I'll put this into perspective for you. I remember both of these storms. This storm, it came onshore well to our south. I was up in Myrtle Beach, way up here, a couple weeks after the storm came through, and the beach erosion was just unbelievable. It cut a cliff from the back of our hotel down to the ocean. There was no sand left. So even with this storm moving inland, the erosion was unbelievable. And then this one, Matthew, last year, notice all the wobbles.
Right.
We're going to see a lot of wobbles. So we'll
and we talked about that. We're going to have those jogs in the in the forecast.
Matthew and David, there they are.
Asking about the status of the Caribbean, places where it had been.
The last I had heard, there were only 2 deaths reported.
Yeah.
I believe one was in St. Martin, and I'm not sure where the other one is. I haven't seen any
stats on that. You know, unfortunately, I feel like, you know, when you live in an island nation, I mean, this is a fact of life for them. So, you know, hopefully they know to prepare. And, I mean, this is really a way of life for them. You can't just get in your car and evacuate.
Right. And I get the question all the time, what computer model performs the best?
Right.
Well, they're never exactly correct. And in the past, the European model has done very well with some of the storms, but
the European did really well with Sandy.
Yes.
And then you were talking about this earlier. That's when we pumped a lot of money into our American model, which is the GFS, and so now it's doing better.
Right. And the GFS did very well with Harvey.
Yes.
So it handled Harvey very well along the Gulf Coast. But what I want you to see here is both the models are pretty consistent with keeping that storm very close together right there.
So there's one.
Southern Bahamas, just north of Cuba. So this is
the Euro stand just slightly south, right?
Yes.
And then the GFS a little bit to the north.
And
but they're very close.
A little weaker. So it just depends on how much land interaction it has. And one of those, the Euro right here over Cuba, that's what we want to see.
Right.
Not necessarily for the folks in Cuba.
But some interaction with land.
Yep. And just look at the agreement that they have. This is all the way up to next Monday.
And what was it? Do you remember going back when we were first made this graphic? How much was the difference? It was it 1,000 miles?
It was over 1,000 miles.
It was 1,000 miles.
And neither of them were here.
No.
The European
they were both offshore.
The European model was in Key West. The European model was in Key West.
Okay.
And the GFS model was up off the coast of Virginia and North Carolina.
Yep, yep.
So yeah, there was like a 1,200-mile difference.
Right. So look at where we are now. So we talk about changes, and you know, and Emily was talking about this today, and you know, I know it, but I didn't say it out loud. But she says, you know, think about how many changes we've seen in 5 days, and we've still got 5 days until we're going to start to see impacts.
Okay. And somebody's asking, what are the chances that it's going to be a 4 or 5 when it turns? 5, not likely. 3 or 4, I think, is very reasonable.
Yeah, I would, based on, I mean, the intensity has been pretty consistent as far as the National Hurricane Center's track.
Yes.
And forecast.
And Hurricane Matthew last year, it went across Haiti down there, and then it came right up the coast of Florida, and it weakened significantly.
Remember, it was a 5? I just went back and looked at some stats. It was the first 5 since Felix in 2007.
Yes.
So it was the first 5 in almost 9 years.
The one difference, though, between this year with Irma and last year with Matthew was the fact that it was a much later storm. It came in October, so our water was cooler, and that storm made a transition to a regular extratropical storm very quickly.
Right, very quickly, yeah.
But here's the steering method, and this is that high pressure center that we were talking about.
Yeah, and there's that ridge offshore that we were talking about too.
Yep. So that one's the driver now, but it's going to yield. It's going to yield to the high pressure coming down out of Canada, and the problem with that is we get clockwise flow around high pressure, and that pushes the storm right back toward the coast. So if that high is a little weaker, though, that may allow it to go a little farther to the north.
Right.
It all depends on that high, and this is why we can't just say, here's exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah.
There are way too many factors at play here to accurately say 5 days out where exactly it's going to go and how strong it's going to be. And that's why the impacts.
Right, right. Now leave this graphic up for just a second. People are asking how far west they should go. And again, we keep saying it comes down to the exact track, but it really does. But I mean, we're still going to see some rain, a tornado threat, depending on the exact track westward. But I don't know the answer at this point.
Right.
Again, it just depends on the exact track. But certainly, I think if you have family, if you have friends that are west, you know, I mean, that's always kind of puts you in a little bit of a comfort zone.
When you may get into some heavy rain, some gusty winds.
But things are booking up, but it's not going to be anything like
Harvey.
Right.
And if you get away from
Harvey or a direct hit or anything like that, which we still don't know if we're going to get.
And that's what you need to do, just get away from the coast. I mean, even a little bit inland is a lot safer. Here, let's put it into context for you.
We've still got inland flooding, but again, this is not going to be like a Harvey or anything.
Well, and we're here no matter what.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
if we even think that things are too bad, we're going to go inland a little bit. We would go inland to Berkeley County.
Right.
Because we don't want to get caught in that storm surge either. That's where the deaths come in, and that's what you need to avoid. That's right along the coast. That's along salt marshes, tidal creeks, rivers. Anything that feeds into the ocean can get that storm surge.
Right. So no school closings at this point. I guess some people are asking, but the districts are monitoring closely, and they always do. They're very good about that. So, you know, they're kind of waiting to see as well. We all are.
Yep. And this storm is far away.
Right.
This is Thursday at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
So here we are, Hispaniola.
Yep. And it's off the coast there.
Yep.
This is just
staying north, kind of moving through the southeastern Bahamas.
And it's just one computer model solution. It's not a guarantee that this is even going to happen.
This is the GFS, correct?
I think it's maybe the RPM.
RPM, okay.
I think it's the RPM.
Okay.
Which is just another computer model, and we look
that's kind of our in-house computer model, so to speak. So that's kind of what we use on a day-to-day basis. So this is only going to go out so far.
Yeah, because this even has it a little farther north than the GFS. The GFS has it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Has it more here. The Euro had it kind of brushing northern Cuba.
So this is 3 different computer models we're showing you, and they all offer a different solution.
Right.
And there are a whole lot more than 3 computer models.
Right. Right, but we know the GFS and the Euro, some of the best with hurricane forecasting.
Yes, absolutely. So
and our everyday forecasting, for that matter.
I didn't stop on that one. So the water out in the Atlantic Ocean, where Irma has already passed, it cooled down a big deal. It's way out there. It's way out there, but well, way out there behind you. Exactly. It's way out there. But now, as this storm continues forward from Puerto Rico toward Haiti and the Dominican Republic, see this dark red? That indicates some very, very warm water. But this is also shallow water.
But interesting, right, and this was also where it had it kind of weakening. So was that because the water, it's warm, but it's shallow?
It's shallow.
Or is that because it's moving over Cuba? So that's what we'll have to wait and see.
And shallower water, it just doesn't have as much energy that it can suck out of the ocean. And that's what it's doing, and that's why it's been uninhibited out in the Atlantic Ocean. No land.
Warm water, no wind shear. So when we talk about wind shear, you know, that really can help to tear a storm apart.
Yes. And
the wind shear's been really low.
As we move up Florida, warm water here, but notice the lighter oranges as we get north of about Cape Canaveral there. And this is where we really saw Matthew make a transition last year.
Right.
It was a category.
Is this the Gulf Stream right here?
Yes. Yes, that is the Gulf Stream. Okay. So if it stays a little farther offshore, that's energy. But notice it's not real thick.
No, it's not.
So that's a thin ribbon of very warm temperatures like 87, 88 degrees. Once it leaves the Bahamas, it'll still be over water that's warm enough to sustain it. But we would likely see a little weakening just because there's not as much hot water for it. And
and our water temperature, here I'm in the way, 82. I was going to say 82, good guess.
Nice. Yeah. So it's actually 82.4 is what it was when I checked this afternoon.
Okay.
And you see the lighter oranges here.
And we're not going to be real hot, so I don't see it really getting any warmer.
Right.
So the strongest side of the storm, that northeast quadrant. So, you know, we break it up in, I don't know if we have a graphic, maybe when we get to
let's say it made landfall right here.
So then break it up.
Yep, if it made landfall right here at the Savannah River.
So that would not be good for
That would be the worst case scenario for us.
Yeah.
For us, any of us, especially southern parts of the viewing area. But that would absolutely be the worst case scenario for us.
Right.
South of there, that's where you're getting the winds coming off the coast.
So you're not going to get the surge.
Right. All the surge would be up to the north.
Up to the north, right. Which is why with Hugo, McClellanville got the worst.
Yeah, and that came on shore right about here. So actually downtown Charleston didn't get the surge.
Right.
But if something came on shore anywhere in southern Charleston County,
so just keep in mind those onshore is going to be
north of
more
it.
surge.
Onshore, everything south, offshore. And absolutely worst case scenario would be a landfall somewhere in southern Charleston County because that would impact the major metro area.
Right.
But we're not going to say it's worst case scenario. We don't know.
Right, we don't know.
And
we don't know.
Here you go. This is what you need to do.
Yep. Family plan. You know, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday. You know, I think my husband is really thinking he's probably going to leave because we lose running water, we lose electricity. We have 2 young kids.
Yeah.
Him being home by himself, that within itself isn't
no way to make meals.
Right. Yeah.
It won't be comfortable.
Right. And we talked about this with Matthew. You know, if you're just not comfortable, then go somewhere else where you'll have electricity, you'll have running water. You know, if you have somebody who has health issues, needs to be close to a hospital, you know, you need to think about going. But yeah, now is the time to have that family plan. That supply kit, place is already out of water. We've heard stories about getting gas. I went and got gas yesterday, and people, not the experience Dean had, but, you know, be patient,
and be nice.
And somebody had parked and was blocking all this traffic, so then people were having to go around them. So, you know, go ahead and get that stuff now. And we were talking about trimming trees and shrubs because all of that is just going to get picked up with the wind. And I mean, we get thunderstorms and stuff like that gets picked up.
Prepare, don't scare.
Right.
Just be ready for it. We've got
like
the time to watch it.
We do have time.
Yeah.
Take advantage of that. Take advantage of the nice weather the next several days.
Definitely. And
you know, have everything packed up. What's the worst case scenario? You pack your bag, you have your supplies, and it stays offshore and we don't need it. Then we're ready if there is another storm. You can take another vacation somewhere, you know.
And
it's better to be prepared.
You were saying as well, people are out of water. We still have tap water right now.
Right.
If you have
so take
empty vessels,
jugs.
fill them up. Some places have collapsible 5-gallon jugs.
Yep.
Buy some of those, fill them up with water, because there's nothing wrong with tap water.
No, absolutely not.
So take care of that right now, and just be courteous to everyone out there who is in the same situation as you. We're all in this together.
Right.
The scenarios and the landfall in the low country is obviously the worst, but we still don't know how strong or how weak it's going to be. But it's still the worst case scenario. If it's offshore, the beaches are just going to get destroyed. They're going to get beat up by waves, and the erosion will be catastrophic to all of our beaches.
Because Irene was a category
Cat 3. It was
when it passed
3,
offshore.
But it was huge. It was huge. It was Cat 3. It was about 140 miles off the coast.
And we thought we were going to get a direct hit from Irene.
Yep, and it stayed off the coast. So 5 days out, we thought we were going to get hit by Irene, and we didn't.
So, and see, look what changes. So that's why it's just, we have to be really vigilant at this point.
And then if it passes up through Florida, I remember Hurricane Francis back in 2004. The center of that storm passed right over top of Atlanta, but we got the rain, and the feeder bands continued to come in off the Atlantic Ocean. And each one of those feeder bands, when I was working up in the PD at the time, every single one of those feeder bands had a tornado in it, and it was just one after another. So that's another impact. We're not going to escape the impacts. There's just no way.
It's just the degree.
And we have time to watch it, and we have time to pin down those specifics, and that's what we're going to do every day. It'll become a clearer picture every day. So we were talking about the preparations.
But clear weather. I mean, and not only cooler temperatures. Of course, we're only 84 today, but we're going to have a lot less humidity tomorrow, a lot of sunshine. So yeah, take advantage of the nice weather. Even if you've already prepped your home, get out and enjoy it. Take the dog for a nice walk. You know, get out, get some exercise, because as we head into early next week, if you do stay, you're not going to be venturing out much.
Definitely not. And our weather team, we're here. We're ready to go. So we'll get you the best information we possibly can, and we'll get it to you any way we can, because we don't care how you get it from us, just as long as you get it and you stay safe.
Yeah, so we've got stuff online, on Facebook, on Twitter, on our website. We've got a plethora of information on our website. And of course, all of our shows. And we'll bring you these Facebook Lives a couple times a day. We're going to try to keep this one at 8 o'clock every night. So you can watch those. Hopefully you tune in. So did we have any more questions before we wrap this up? I think we're good. Okay. So keep it tuned to ABC News 4. We're here for you. Have a good night.